Helping teachers grow towards theory and practice of an emergent curriculum model of staff development. Many times, as teachers, when you're starting your job or you're currently in your job, you will have staff development, or also we also know those as teacher days, where you have to report to school and they will have a staff development. So what this paper discusses is a model for that and how to help teachers through staff development. Since the model of professional development was applied by a statewide project to increase the quality of child care in 150 classrooms serving primary children from low-income families. Initial evaluation suggested it worked as hoped. It talks about their project. When the state of Wisconsin embarked on welfare reform in 1996, it greatly increased its program of child care subsidies for low-income working parents. So as you begin this article, you see that this probably came from a grant or from some money that came from the state. So the state encouraged this, so researchers, especially from the University of Wisconsin, they start grabbing onto this and they take the money and they create good programs. Psychological foundations of learning, kind of a background history of this. This gives a review of LIT. And then the elements of our training model. Our emergent curriculum model is the name they gave this model of training is relational, objective, and self-exploratory. It is constantly related to evolving intervention models in other fields. Our general aims are to help teachers see themselves more clearly, to reflect more on what they are doing and what they do it that way, and to learn to talk about their practices more effectively. So that's their overview of their model. You'll notice that they said that they quote Erickson and England. It seems kind of like they may have replicated some of their study and then branched from that. Our model only works with a trusting relationship between our training specialist and the teacher is established. With it, so the first thing we see is trust. Trust is very important. The teacher will share her understandings, doubts, and hopes for her classroom and will be able to take risks and experiment with new ideas and practices. To develop trust, we use objective, written observations of the classroom, and we focus on competencies already acquired. When we say that our observations are objective, we mean that we accurately record. So the first thing they do is they come into the classroom and they observe the teacher so they can build the trust. Encourage teacher self-exploration, building a trust, and then, so this is their model right here: shaping promising practices, generalize effective practices, provide conceptual labels, link practices, and encourage self-exploration. So as you look at the model, you see the first thing they do is they build some trust, they guide them, help shape them, generalize effective practices. So they kind of, okay, everyone's doing a good job, so let's talk about the whole thing, link it, and then they encourage the teacher to go out on their own and do, so kind of a self-discovery model. It continues on through here, and you notice that shape promising practices. We're familiar with the practice of catching a child being good. Example of behavior shaping compromise practices. It says one of the training specialists observed a teacher who only talked with the babies on one occasion during the entire observation. The training specialist chose to write about and discuss that observation, describing how the baby held her body still and watched the teacher's mouth. By focusing observation on this single occurrence of effective practice, the training specialist began to skillfully shape the teacher toward engaging this practice more frequently. So instead of saying, hey, you should not yell at a student, you would say, hey, I remember that time you talked quietly to that student and explained something. That was a very good job. So you take the positive and expand on the positive. So you don't want to just slam them on negative. Generalize promising practices, provide conceptual labels, link practices, and encourage self-exploration. Now it talks about what they did with the preliminary. So what I would take from this article is I would take from here up, and I would read just how they did this. So if you're getting a master's degree, if you're getting a specialist degree, and you're going to be known as a curriculum expert, then whenever a principal comes up to you and they say, hey, Ratliff, I need you to help implement this program, then you can say, well, I don't know how to do that. And, and you go, oh, I remember that article that we discussed, and they had that model in place. So I'll just follow this model, boom, 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 read all of this, knock it out. Real simple to do. Now, what they do in the rest of the article is they talk about best practices and how they evaluated it and how they did a pre-test and how they did this and this and this. In all honesty, you can kind of throw this away because this is, in conclusion, what we did everyone liked. Well, of course, but there's their model. So they're giving you their model of how they built a curriculum with, even with the child care or anything. So what if you, I'll give you a real world example. Let's say your principal says, I need you to create a curriculum to get our state test in history up. So the first thing you do is you build a trusting relationship. You go in there and you observe the teachers and you work with them and you build trust. Shape promising practices. Then you generalize effective practices by sending out emails to all the groups saying, hey, this is what we're seeing, this is real, this is working well. Put some conceptual labels, which means to label it, make it sound like it's good. Link practices with research-based, and then boom, have the teachers do it themselves. Real simple program. So this is what I get out of this article, is they're giving you a free model. So of course the only question you would ask is, how do I use this model without plagiarizing? Well, that would be in this section right here when they're saying our emergent model is training and relational and objective and self-exploratory. It is, so our model of training is relational, which means that they are relating it to the real world. Objective, which means they're not being punishing of anyone, and self-exploratory, which means at the end the teachers go do their own thing. It is consciously related to evolving intervention models in other fields, which means that they're borrowing from other models of interventions. Most notably, and here's the people they borrowed it from, our general aims are to help teachers see themselves more clearly, to reflect more. So that's what that whole paragraph means. So you would say, I'm going to be using the model based on the Wisconsin emergent curriculum. And that's all you can do, and then you can use the model. Now, of course, Riley and Roach, if they want to make some money, they could actually train you on how to do the model, and some of them sometimes they'll do that, or sometimes they'll actually come and be consultants for you. So that's how that works. But it's just a really good article, a really good way to do that. So I hope this is what I would take from that, is a good model on how to make teacher training easier.